In this video, we're going to be tying one of my favorite crab patterns called the Kung Fu crab. First thing we're going to do is start off with some orange thread. You can also use fluorescent chartreuse or an olive color. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a pair of medium-sized brass eyes, and I like to add these as close to the eye as I can get them. I usually leave just a wrap or two of space right up at the eye. You can use a little bit of super glue to make sure that those are in place. Then we're going to take our thread and we're going to wrap all the way back down to the bend. There I'm going to take a pair of large black mono eyes. You can also use some crab shrimp eyes, some EP crab shrimp eyes, those also work well. But the pattern actually calls for this black mono eye, and you just make sure that's secure. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to tie in a little bit of Cactus chenille. I'm going to be using pink, but you can also use a hot orange or a fluorescent chartreuse. And we're just going to make a couple of wraps in and around these eyes. Literally just a couple wraps. You got to be real careful not to overdo it with the Cactus chenille. And we can trim that out of there. Then we're going to work our thread all the way back to those eyes. You want to make sure you trim out any stray fibers, and you can also thin out the Cactus chenille a little bit too around the eyes if you think it's just a little too much. I usually thin it out in behind the eyes, on this side of the eyes, because that's not what the fish sees. You can leave this side a little more full. Now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to tie in our claws, and what I've done is I've taken a tan Zonker strip. I've cut out about a ½ inch of Zonker strip, and I've split the Zonker strip into kind of two pieces, the fur part of it, and I used a little bit of Loon UV fly finish, and I simply just rub it on there with my fingers and kind of twist the fur as I rub it on. Then I cure it, and I add a little bit of a red permanent marker stain to the tip of the claws, and we're going to tie these claws in so that the leather strip faces inwards towards the fly, and I'll use those eyes kind of as a prop. It'll help prop out those claws and get them to stand out to the side. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side with an identical set of claws. Then I'm just going to wrap forward. Make sure everything is secure. And I'll trim out the excess. The next thing to do is to build the body. For that I'm going to use EP fibers. I'm just going to cut little sections of EP fiber, and I'm simply just going to take my thread, I'm going to go all the way back to those claws, and I'm going to lay that piece of EP fiber in, and I'm going to do an X-wrap right on top, Try to center it as much as I can. And I can lay down some nice tight wraps. And you can do whatever color you like. I'm going to do kind of a brown and a tan variation. You can use beige colors, you can tie olive colors, you can just do whatever you want. The more classic color is kind of a tan and brown color like I'm doing. But you can do whatever you want. A lot of guys like to use olive crabs as well. I just simply repeat this process until I get to the front of the fly. Now, once I have all the sections tied in here, we are ready to trim the body. And the shape of the body is kind of personal preference. A lot of the Kung Fu crabs that I've seen and that I've bought have more of kind of a V shape where it just starts off thin and kind of gets thicker as it goes back. But you can also tie them in and round it if you like. But to do that simple V shape, it's pretty easy. You just simply pull all the E fibers up or down. I usually pull up, and you just trim at an upward angle. Kind of turn my vise here a little bit. I just trim at an upward angle. Just like that. That'll give me that classic wide profiled kind of V-shaped body. And you can kind of fine tune it. There's almost always a few stragglers in there. Kind of see that nice wide profile. Then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to add the legs. For that I'm just going to use some Loco legs. You can use tan, brown. This is actually called turtle grass olive. It's kind of a brownish olive color. I take a set of 4. I just simply lay them in right behind the eyes. I tie them in kind of the same way as I tied in the EP fiber, just with a couple X wraps. Then you can trim your legs. I like the legs to kind of reach back past the body. About halfway down the claws. And then if you like, you can add a weed guard. That's optional. Some guys like to use a weed guard. Other guys don't. I just simply take a piece of 20-pound Rio hard alloy mono and double it over. Then I just place it on the hook. Do a few wraps in front of it and behind it. Then trim it so that the weed guard's just a little longer than the point of the hook. Then to finish the fly, you can just whip finish. Finish trimming if you have more stragglers. And I usually do super glue the underside of the hook where the thread is exposed. I usually give that a pretty healthy dose of super glue. I like to use the brush-on kind. And that's all there is to the Kung Fu crab. Give you a better look here. You can see the claws kind of look like they're open, that the crab is defending its little spot. just as it would if a bonefish or a permit was trying to eat it. And that's all there is to the Kung Fu crab. Great little pattern for bonefish and permit. You can find all the materials for the Kung Fu crab on our website, intheriffle.com.